Let's start off. Welcome everybody again. Lisa Marie, not Presley, and I love Erasure. The stolen millennium and the year 7526 AM. If you believe it is the 21st century and you are missing the years of reality, the standard history relies on a manipulated timeline that omits the great Sabbath that has already occurred. And this is according to the Zadokite Priestly Reckoning, the only calendar that accounts for the Second Cainan. The clock did not just strike midnight. The Sabbath millennium has passed, and we are not waiting for the kingdom. We are surviving in the little season, in the ruins of a world that was reset while man slept. So it looks like we're right at the end. We are here, 7526 AM, the cosmic week. They laboured for 6,000 years and the Sabbath, and we're at the little season. The math of the remnant, we're not in 2026. We are approximately 526 years into the little season that follows the millennium. The implication, we are not waiting for the Antichrist to rise. He has been running the show since 1070 AD. And this urgency, the little season is short. We are in the final moments of the final era. So the end times aren't in our future, but they're in the rearview mirror. The official calendar says it is 2026, but the math of the true priesthood says we're in the year 7526 AM Anno Mundi. Everyone is playing a game where the board is already broken and the checkmate already happened 10 centuries ago. And you aren't waiting for the kingdom to arrive. You are living in the decaying hum of a finished program's code. And it's time to talk about the year 7526. Now that's the master key, the missing century. The official timeline is missing 500 years of reality. Standard history relies on the Masoretic text, which suspiciously admits a single name from the lineage of the Second Cainan, but the Septuagint and the Gospel of Luke preserve him. This isn't just genealogy, a nerd's footnote. A single generation adds 130 years to the world's clock. And under the Zadokite Priestly Reckoning, history follows a cosmic week. 6,000 years of labour, followed by 1,000-year Sabbath. And when you include Cainan, the math shifts the year 6000 AM to the start of the millennial Sabbath, directly into the first century. The Sabbath arrived when Christ came. And the occupation and victory at Babel, the nations were divorced and assigned to a hostile spiritual rulers, the Ben Elohim. But Jesus, Yahushua, didn't come to negotiate. He came to serve an eviction notice. So when he sent the 70 disciples, it was a declaration of cosmic war against those 70 entities. And when Yahushua said, I saw Satan fall like lightning, it wasn't a metaphor. It was a legal displacement. The cross legally reclaimed the earth, and the kingdom inauguration was immediate. This generation shall not pass till all these things be done wasn't a failed prophecy. It was a historical reality. The witness of Purusha in AD 70, the Old Covenant world ended in fire. Secular historians like Josephus and Tacitus were the record, the incredible. They recorded everything. They described armoured troops and chariots running among the clouds surrounding the cities. The temple was illuminated by sudden radiance from the sky. This was the judgment. This was the king taking his throne. From AD 70 to AD 1070, the just men, made perfect, ruled the earth with a rod of iron. The Grand Tartary and the administrative logs. This era is what historians called the Dark Ages, but the maps tell a different story. They show a Grand Tartary, a global unified civilization characterized by free energy, semantics in stone and geometric perfection. The lives of the saints, or hagiography, aren't myths. They are the administrative logs of this kingdom's governors. We see evidence in the found cities, mathematically perfect structures like the US Capitol that were merely inherited, not built, by people with horse and buggy technology. The mud flood cataclysm buried the lower levels of the infrastructure, leaving us with the basement windows anomaly we see in every major city today. Right, there's a release and the great erasure, but Revelations 20 tells us that after the 1,000 years, Satan would be loose for a little season around the Zadokite year 7000, approximately 1070 AD. The visible reign of Christ concluded and the visible saints were withdrawn. The world moved from a divine governance to a hostile management. To hide this, the enemy launched the Great Erasure between 1650 and 1850. Now, I'm only guessing these times, and I'm trying to piece it all. I'm not guessing, but I'm trying to piece it together. So this is what the evidence says, but there might be more evidence to prove something else. But I know it's around that time. That was a suspicious wave of fires. They consumed the world's most critical archives in Madrid, London, Washington. Genealogical links to the kingdom were severed. New dynasties like the House of Hanover were installed with fabricated bloodlines to claim the kingdom territory as their own. So this inversion of 57526, we are now into the little season. We are living in the year 7526. The hallmark of this era is the inversion. Beauty has been inverted into brutalism, truth into relativism, and divine health into sickness. The hum you feel is a world running on a finished code. That war is over. The checkmate happened 1,000 years ago. We aren't here to fix a world system that is already under judgment. We are the Ecclesia, the rescue mission, and our role is to wake up the sleepers before the final curtain falls and the white throne judgment begins. The end is not coming, the end is ending. Right, based on the Zadokite Reckoning and the research I've done, I hope this is right. And I would like other people out there to do their own research and also help me in this. I think I've got it right, but who knows? The little season that follows the Sabbath. So here is an 8,000 year framework and the millennial Sabbath function within this model, right? So the mechanics of this cosmic week. So the ancient theological theory holds that man's history spans a cosmic week modeled after the 7th days of creation. So 6,000 years of labor, that's the first 6 days. 6,000 represents the era of man's toil and struggle against the hostile spiritual powers. Then we have the 1,000 years of Sabbath, which when Yahushua died on the cross, this then goes straight into this. The 7th day, the 1,000 year millennial kingdom is a period of rest where the Messiah and the resurrected saints govern the earth while Satan is bound. Then the 8,000th year represents the beginning of the new heaven and new earth, the final judgment, the white throne. So why are we here in the 7526 AM? So, in the modern thinking, which stems from the missing century, specifically the omission of Cainan in the standard Masoretic chronologies, the calculation including Cainan adds the 130 years to the timeline. The result, the shift means that the year 6000, the Sabbath, arrived in the 1st century AD. So the completed Sabbath, the 1,000-year Sabbath, millennial reign, ran from approximately AD 70 to AD 1070. So the expiry. The year 7000 AM is the end of the Sabbath, which occurred around 1070 at this point, where Satan was loose for this little season. So the little season can go from 7,000 to 8,000. So we don't know if it finishes or it's just a little season and we're close to that end. We're currently living in the little season, which is the period between the end of the millennial Sabbath and the final white throne judgment. So the year 7526 means we are over 500 years in the final period of deception. But the hostile management, because the Sabbath is over, we have moved from divine governance back into a period of hostile management and the inversion of order. The world feels like a broken board or a stage because we're living in the final moments of the finished program's code, waiting for the transition. The checkmate happened 1,000 years ago, and we're just moving dead pieces around on the chessboard. We're not building the kingdom that the 1,000-year rest is already done, a matter of erased history. We are currently on the rescue mission to pull souls out of the little season deception before the clock has its final judgment. So the goal of the enemy during this little season is to make you think the kingdom is still in the future. So the first resurrection evidence is hagiography records, a massive impossible concentration of miracles and martyrs during the Roman time. According to the revised chronology, this was a singular event of the first resurrection that launched the millennium. So the phantom time insertion, by spreading these saints over 1,500 years, they created that phantom time. This fills the gap between the end of the millennial, which is 1070, and the modern era, making it seem like a continuous miserable history rather than a sudden reset. So bearing the evidence, the physical lives of the saints were often tied to the advanced architecture we see today. So by destroying the archives from 1650 to 1850, that linked specific saints to specific structures. The link between the kingdom and our physical reality was broken. So where are the saints now? So if we're living in this year, 7526 AM, the saints left because their visible reign ended when Satan was loose for the little season. So the world now feels like a stage or a broken board because we're living in the false reality designed to cover up the saints' previous governance. The inversion has turned the beauty of the hagiography age into the brutalism of this modern era. So if you believe the saints lived in the dark ages, you've been deceived by this chronological glitch. The records we call hagiography are actually the administrative logs of the millennial kingdom. By spreading these lies across 1,500 years of phantom time, the enemy hid the fact that we are in the year 7526. So we aren't looking at myths, we're looking at the governors of the global civilization that was physically erased. So let's look at the maths here. To understand how this was stolen, we have to look at the lives of the saints as more than just religious stories. They're a paper trail of the first resurrection. According to this Zadokite timeline, which includes the missing generation of Cainan, the clock struck midnight for the old world 2,000 years ago. The primary tool of the little season was to take the massive concentration of saints who lived during the millennial reign, 70 to 1070, and fragment them into our current history books. These saints appear sporadically throughout the Dark Ages. This creates a false sense of slow, muddy progression of history rather than a 1,000-year golden age of the unified, advanced civilization. Why are the saints often depicted holding or building massive, mathematically perfect cathedrals? Because they were the governors of this grand Tartary. These structures were not neoclassical revivals built by peasants with mud roads. They were the physical infrastructure of the kingdom civilization. The deception was the Great Erasure, 1650 to 1850, used fires to destroy the archives that linked these specific saints to the buildings they managed. So the rebranding, once the records were ash, these structures were rebranded as found cities, and the saints were moved back into time to become unverifiable legends. In the Zadokite year 7000, approximately 1070, the 1,000-year lease expired. Satan was loosed for the little season. This is why the age of miracles seemingly ended. The saints didn't just die. Their term of visible governance concluded, leaving us in a world under hostile management.
Everyone is playing the game, but they don't know the board is already broken. The checkmate happened 1,000 years ago. We're just waking up to the truth. Welcome to year 7. Lost in the numbers, lost in the lines. They hit a whole century to mess with our minds. Our fixed to shell up a Cainan was there. 130 years vanished into thin air. The clock struck midnight when the king arrived, while the little season kept the secret alive. Has passed, the program is fixed, the millennium happened, the kingdom was won. Now we're just watching the setting of the sun. No more waiting for a future to see. We're the rescue crew of the 7th century. The found city still hum with the sound of a kingdom that's rising from under the ground. Satan was loose to accelerate the hate. Beauty to brutalism, truth to the lie. But you can't hide the glory in the 80s, 70s sky. The war is over, the king is on the sea. We're just moving dead pieces, reject the deceit. Sieving glass to your seat. The end is ending. The end is ending.